Hello everyone. I was just making this video just to illustrate a couple of issues that us creators are having, or more like creative builders are having inside Creative. Just a disclaimer, this is not really me hating on Creative or anything. I absolutely love Creative. I build every single day, countless hours, and there's some things that take away my motivation when I'm building, and those things are kind of hard to express in the bug report because um, it doesn't really mean it's a bug. It's more like a design choice, or rather lack thereof. So there's a lot of things. Maybe a couple of our bugs. Others are more like UX things that I'm gonna illustrate here. Um, I will be using my level parkour universe for just to illustrate those issues, because most of them also happen in Excel islands. So just to start it off, I would say uh, even small things like you don't have to like listen to everything I have to say, because sometimes some things are a little bit more nitpicky, and others are a little bit more effective, or like they affect our experiences even more. So I will start with a very nitpicky one, and I will be going with no particular order, by the way, so just keep that in mind. So the first one goes back into like the first update of Creative, like it goes back to actual like OG Creative, and it was the design choice to make this blue rendering as the selection. So like when you select something, you see this shader that gets applied into the prop, which also gives it like a little bit of translucency. But the thing is that personally, I believe that this is not really helping too much when we build. Like I would rather have like the prop itself rather than a blue shader of what the prop looks like. And I would even like to build without any effect, just knowing what the prop is, and I can align it any way I want it would be perfect. Now it has some pros and cons, mainly the pros that it's translucent, you can see through it, you can see where you're going into, but the con is that this shader is subject to logic, and is also subject to, let's say, rendering rules. So for example, if I have a specific prop, like a glass, right? Like you see here, I'm placing something. When I pick up the glass, those rules will not really apply, because sometimes you can't really see where you're placing. Like here, you see, like I can't see if I'm overlapping the glass anymore or not. And this also happens with various props like objective devices or doors, that they don't really have that shader priority set up correctly. And even though here I can see, like the opposite doesn't happen here. And if I had the previous approach where I could just see the prop, then I could probably see where it would overlap in the glass properly. So that's suggestion number one. Let's move into suggestion number two. There's a large problem right now which affects our experience a lot, and it is like while we build, right? Like we have a prop selected, or even if we don't have a prop selected, and we just generally build. Every time the game autosaves, I will just move into a random location. See, like it just happened. Now keep in mind, I have no frame loss in this video, and I think we are now at 60 FPS. So what you saw was an in-game stutter, and that happens every time the game autosaves. Now I understand like the levels in Excel Islands are large, and like it takes a lot to store, and that's why the stutter happens. But like it would be nice if it was a little bit more progressive when it autosaves, so that like small chunks are saved instead of like the full thing. because going forward, like, levels will only get bigger, right? So it needs to be like some sort of system that doesn't stutter the entire game while we build, when the autosaves happens, which is very frequent, by the way. This happens, I don't know, like almost every minute. I'm not sure, I haven't timed it, but it happens very frequently. And I'm building, and that just takes away from the experience. You can even shoot me far away from the island. Like if I'm standing close to the edge and I'm building with something, and then I just keep doing this, like at some point the momentum is gonna get carried away while the game autosaves, and I'm gonna be shot outside the island because it doesn't know that I stopped at that point, and it still thinks I'm going. So every time the autosave happens, and you can I was able to tell that this was due to autosave, because every time you see it happen right now, you see like there's a little like buffering symbol on the top right that said autosave. That's exactly when the stutter happens every single time. So that's how I could tell it was due to autosave. So that was issue number 2. Let's move into issue number 3. This is more of a smaller nitpicky one. Like it's not something too crazy, but the content browser, great addition, by the way. Like it's great to have the option to pick props individually. The only like big problem, and it's a huge problem for the content browser, is that you can only see walls from one side. And if you're very picky and you want to pick that perfect wall texture, and you want to remember which gallery it is, it's always so hard to do it through the content browser because 50% of the textures are not seen. So in these cases, you have to always like take the entire gallery and just place it in your island manually, and then see which one of the textures you're looking for, and then keep doing that like kind of like the OG days. So it would be nice if you could select a prop, and in the interface you can actually rotate the prop. So you like select something, and then it appears in the interface, and then you select it, and then you just spin it around. By the way, I just realized you cannot see my cursor, so I'm gonna quickly fix that. Give me a second. Properties, capture cursor. There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay. So yeah, so like when you have a wall selected, like somewhere here, you could probably see the wall and then spin it around. That'll be incredible. So that was suggestion number 3. The next one is a little bit, again, goes back to OG Creative. Ooh. Goes back into OG Creative. It's not really anything crazy, but it's a feature we always wanted and we never had. Like for example, I have a wall, right, and I want to mirror it. Like there's no easy way to mirror it by using the what's it called, building as prop. So for example, if I have a wall and I want to mirror it, then I have to like go into building as prop off. I have to place it, pick it up again so it just goes into the grid, place it in a ground surface, which takes a lot of time if you don't have a ground surface, say like a water plane or something. Press M to mirror, place it again, go back into building as prop, origin edge, pick it up again, and then you have the mirrored version that you need to get back into the grid. And this is the process for just mirroring just one asset. And it doesn't happen when you have like say just a normal asset. You cannot mirror this asset precisely and make like an identical one on the other side. And this is very useful when we're talking about statues, because usually it's the statues that we need mirrored for entrances to be like identical on the other side. Now the only way I found this to maybe work is I take it off the grid, I go into width, I have to also pick it up correctly like this, I move it to an approximate position I feel is the same, and then I move it with a grid position on the width so that it takes the grid of the scaling, and then I place it. But this I feel may be a little bit more tedious and something complex for a new creator. Like they don't know this process. Like it took me like a year and something to figure this one out and make it perfectly identical in the same width. I don't even know if it is. I'm just assuming it is. But yeah, I feel like just a mirror button, so that props and construction that is off grid can just get mirrored with M, would be super useful. Alright, next up, multi-selections turn red for no reason. Again, this is a nitpicky thing, but it started happening after a while and it just may get confusing for new creators, because red usually means something cannot be placed. So if I grab something and I see red, it means I cannot place it, but then it is placeable. So it doesn't make sense for things to turn red when multi-selecting. Alright, next up. Alright, so there's a new thing that was introduced a while ago, and so zones, if they're scaled outside the limits of the island, they cannot be placed, they cannot be moved, they cannot be grabbed and placed again, unless the entire zone is inside the island. I mean, I understand the reason, but it only makes things harder, because you can still do the same thing. And by the same thing, I mean, if you wanted to glitch the zone and make it so that it just goes into other islands, all you do is that you place the device and then you scale it up. And then while placed, you set the zone and everything just becomes unselectable or like inaccessible in other islands. So what you wanted to fix with that change is not fixed. And what that change brought is it made our levels and building harder. Because if I want to take a zone and place it in the next level, usually the zones are a lot bigger than this. Oh wait, oh, you guys fixed that. Oh, interesting, nice. Well, let me double check with the damage zone. So that was that is interesting. Let me grab this guy. Oh, all right, perfect. Never mind then. I'll take that on. Take that one off the list. So yeah. Before the problem was that you couldn't like place it anywhere because the limitation of the zone didn't let you place it, but now that's fixed. So perfect. Thanks for that, guys. Mutator zone makes everything selectable. Let's see. Another issue is that if you have a mutator zone, anything inside it cannot be selected. It makes building really hard. Double check. Let's see. Place another prop. Yeah, I can select it. Let me set this to. So the whole thing is that if you set this to all, I think. If I'm doing anything wrong, I think that's how you repro. Place it again. Yep. Yeah, so as you can see, so what I did is that I set the enable during phase all, and then I grabbed it and placed again to take the new settings. I don't know why it does that, but it apparently does. And then nothing in the zone can get selected anymore. So if we build a game, you have to set it to none, place it again, and set it to all, and then you can select things. And you have to do that every single time you have something inside the mutator zone if you want to work inside that zone. So if that didn't happen, that would be perfect. So let's move to the next one. Assets move when scaling and leave their intended position. All right, yeah, I mean, this is a really old issue, but essentially, if you have a very tall prop that you scaled in height, every time you pick it up from its top, you see like it leaves its position. Every time you pick it up from its bottom, it does nothing. Ideally, when you pick it up from its top, it should also do nothing instead of move forward. So that's the issue, and this issue has been happening since day one of Creative. It would be nice to have that resolved. Next issue is glass gallery creates weird refraction. So even though the glass gallery is an invaluable tool, it's very useful. We love it. The only problem is that when you build something and you use the glass, as in like generally you place the glass gallery down, like sometimes you get these weird refractions that just distort things behind it. And I have a different level that I have this problem with, but since it's a super NDA project, I can't really showcase it in this video. But it essentially, like, things move when seen from a glass. It's not really happening right now. Maybe because things are very close. Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of like what happens on my left side of the screen right now, but it's kind of hard to explain this one. Like sometimes the refractions are like very out of place. Let me show you this, for example. I know this one will definitely illustrate the issue. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a TV screen. I think this is how you do it. Yeah, I see. Like things become very weird when seen through the glass. Maybe it's a shader issue, I don't know, but this also happens with buildings, so it's not only the screen here that is causing it. And oh yeah, see, like placing something in front of a glass also does weird refractions in the glass, as you can see. That's what I want to illustrate. Didn't remember how to do it. See, like if you see something and there's a glass behind, there is some weirdness in the shader. And like it may look small here, but imagine if you had like a full building that is like ultra modern, you want to make it for a brand deal, and there is this they want a glass on the full like side of it, and then you build like a restaurant inside it, then you like look through the glass and everything's like fully distorted, then it just breaks the whole like picture, or like how cool it looks, and it just creates this uncanny effect. I hope I deleted everything here. Just probably have backed up and restored after this test, but anyway. Alright, so that was the suggestion. Mainly just in the glass gallery, just to not refract that much in those cases, that would, or like glass through glass, to maybe not look as like misplaced. That's what I'm trying to say. Would be really cool. All right, the next is the next one. I have no idea how I can illustrate this, but what happens is that sometimes I don't know the repro, but I'm just gonna illustrate what happens. Sometimes we have like large props, and we just want to move them. Oh, there we go. See, my controls are inverted. I go up, it goes down. I go down, it goes up. And this is very confusing when you're building to have inverted controls. So, yeah, there you go. I'm kind of lucky that I managed to repro so easily. But I just placed a large floor, scaled it up on the, and then placed it on a little bit of a slope. And then I think the anchor point is... Where's the anchor point? Rotate it so you guys can see the anchor point. Oh, it's in the center. And the anchor point is in the center. So I selected it from the side. And then I get inverted controls. I don't know why, but it's something that is in Creative for a while now. It wasn't since the day one patch. It was added, I think, like at some point very early though. But yeah, that is another one that is kind of weird for us. And then just a more of a logic thing that started happening like 3 updates. As you can see, my memory on top says 55k, and I'm on actually an Excel island, but the memory is definitely not 55. Here is like the largest cluster, but the game only shows me where I'm standing at. Like it only shows me the local cluster of memory, and I'm pretty sure this is a bug because when Excel islands were first introduced, the total or the max memory will always show instead, and that was like that was changed like 3 updates ago, I feel. And it's now very confusing to build and optimize Excel islands because you get this different budget everywhere you go, and it's so hard to know what's the budget, and especially hard when you have like a cluster like where I'm standing right now, and I want to build right next to it, and I want to make sure that anything I add here doesn't affect that cluster and make it even worse, you know? So for example, if you have like an ongoing server game and you have like this main cluster, the plaza, that takes all the budget, and you're adding expansions to your city or like that plaza, you want to make sure those new props you add don't affect initial cost memory on the highest cluster. And with this like edit or like with this change, it's super hard to know. Even if you have another character standing in here, there's no way to know what's the memory and what memory is affected when you're adding new props far away, and you're trying to make it so that the range of that prop doesn't get close enough to affect the central area. You're trying to keep the budget memory low. So yeah, that's this one affects us a lot. Like this prevents us from actually optimizing our Excel maps and make sure that we build with as much optimization as possible, and things de-render when you're far away fully. Like we don't fully know, because if I place a building there, how do I know it's de-rendered if the budget doesn't tell me? I have to manually count how it was before, and after placing the building far away, come back and see if anything's changed. And I have to do that every time I place anything if I really wanted to get into that optimization like workflow. So yeah, that's probably the last one. I'm gonna go into a list that I have a while ago, and it's gonna cover all the issues that we have with UX. So the main one, which you probably see a lot of creators mention, is that there is no grid when multi-selecting. So normally you have the grid. Say this is the grid. I'm gonna actually place it where the grid is so you can see. Now I multi-select something. It's still on the grid, but that's only because the rectangle is kind of like equal. So if you select something that has like it's kind of hard to explain, but the rectangle is equal from both sides. Like the selection, the collision, or not the collision, the box of what you're selecting is kind of like equal from all sides. So then you're still on the grid. Even though I'm not perfectly sure you're perfectly on the grid. Maybe you're not. Anyway. But the thing is, if you have like a selection that involves a prop or involves a floor, and like the selection is not equal on all sides, kind of like in this case, when you select something, it leaves the grid. So it's kind of hard to tile it. Or actually I can make it even more obvious, like this, because that was still in the grid there. See, like now I'm like completely outside the grid that I was before, because I have a prop that is not equal to the selection, like centroid, let's say. Like the centroid of objects changes. So if I had, say, something that is here, and then I select all 4, I will still be on the grid. So it would be ideal if the center rate never changes. Like even if I had like props that were anywhere in the selection, like the grid always stayed the same regardless. So that's one of the oldest like requests since multi-selection was added. So that's one. The next one is we cannot scale multi-selections, and it will be invaluable if we could just grab something and scale it up, because usually what happens is that in say a brand deal, you get clients asking for a logo, and we use primitives who spend hours, even days, creating a logo, and then they go, hey, I just want it, I like it, but I wanted you to place it there, and then I want to scale it up and place it in the overall level as well. So that's something we cannot do. We have to recreate it. But that's in Unreal Engine, that's just a click. So I felt like having a multi-selection scale up or down would be super useful. And if you're worried about max scale and minimum scale props, I would say maybe take into consideration every prop and scale it up until one of the props reaches max scale. So, and then let the creator worry about what props they use and everything. Or they can deselect one of the props that they feel has reached the max scale and still keep scaling up, you know? Same with scale down. So let's move into the next suggestion. Billboards rotate when you place them, scale them on your... Okay, yeah, this I think has not been fixed before, and it broke all our maps when it happened. So billboards, it's essentially the text we use in our games. Let me go find one. Just gonna place one. So billboards. So what happened is that, say I had a billboard, right? Go find a wall. Gonna go agency, CC. Gonna find just a plain wall, and then we had like a perfectly aligned text, and then one update caused the text to just rotate like this, and it hasn't been fixed since then. Like all our text and all our maps that were perfectly aligned into surfaces is now inside the surface. So what happened is that we had the text scaled, so like this and like this. Let me see now. And then when you scale and when you rotate, actually let me rotate that wall as well, the wall, so you can see. Kind of hard to repro. Maybe it has been fixed, I'm not sure. But what happened is that the text would rotate when you selected it. Like as you can see now, I think you have to be in the right angle to see it. But like I'm perfectly aligned, and when I place, the text is actually far away. Let me see, I can actually, yeah, see? So like the text is different when you place it than when you select it. And that was introduced a couple of updates back, and like it broke all our levels because the text would just do this. Like it would just be in a different position than when selected. And then after that, we fixed it, but we had this issue where we couldn't see where the text was actually positioned. We had to like play around until it worked. So that's the issue. So essentially how I did it, I rotated it and I also scaled it non-uniformly. I think you may be able to pull it off by scaling it uniformly as well, but I can't remember if that was the case. Something about the angle, I don't know what it is, but something about the angle causes the effect. And another problem, since we're billboards, is that there is collision on the billboard when you pick it up, and it just makes the player move away. Like as you can see, like for a split second when I pick it up, it has collision, and it just moves me away. So it's kind of hard to align it when you're like being moved away. You can actually see it. See, like I move away. Alright. So this is another bug in Creative where I have no clue how to repro. But I'm just gonna showcase what happens. Sometimes, and I don't know how this happens, you have a prop that you scaled non-uniformly. You're into the grid, it's aligned with something else. Let's say you have it aligned like this. And then for some reason you want to scale it only one direction, say depth. As you can see, the first time I scale, it scales in another direction as well, or another axis, sorry, as well. So like, see here, now it's perfectly aligned. When I change the depth, the width also goes back as well. Let's show you this again. As you can see, like the two things are overlapping in front by the shader. You can see that. When I scale to depth, which is not the direction that I'm scaling, I mean, it's a different direction than the one just moved there. Like the prop moves once. And this, we don't know why this happens, but this affects like alignment. Like I don't want the prop to move in width, I want to move in height, but then it just moves in width as well. It's kind of hard to showcase here because it's moving up. Let me place it again. You see, like this gap here was created for no reason. Like I wasn't scaling in like width, I was only scaling height. So that's the issue, and yeah, it's very annoying when you're trying to perfectly align things and things just go out of scale for no reason. All right, next issue. This is since the OG days. Like I've always wanted this fixed, and it would be like a blessing. So when you're building in an interior, so you have this being your interior, and you want to place something, say this statue. When I pick it up, I want to move it forward. So my give me a sec. And I want to move it forward so my character moves forward. Let me actually place it here so you can see. Like I want to move it forward so my character moves forward so it can go forward. The prop doesn't actually move forward, as you can see, unless the camera is not bumping the wall. So this is very very time consuming when you're building inside the room and you have like a prop and you just want to move it back, but you can't because the camera is bumping on the wall, and the player and the camera change along with the selection because you're moving away from the wall. So the prop stays the same, in the same position, as you can see here, even though I want to move it forward. So that's something that would be really nice. So like if selection is not affected by the camera and you want to move forward, just moves forward. That's it, regardless of where you're at, regardless if you're like facing a wall. And that would be super useful for building. Alright, so that was one of my biggest issues personally. But the actual biggest issue in UX, in creative right now, in my opinion, is that you cannot select props that are inside of the props. Like for me, this is the most time-consuming thing out of everything. Like I have a prop inside a wall. There's no way to select it anymore. The only way to select it is to move away the wall, place it, and then select it, and then place again the wall back. So like if there was a way for us to hide the wall, or like select things through the wall by just going inside, just doing this, because this, by the way, doesn't always work. It depends on the collision of the prop. Like for example, there are props that don't let you do that, what I just did. And if I have it inside here, for example, there's no way to select it anymore. See? I select the cube regardless of what I do. I mean, there is a way to select it, but you don't see it. Like I have to like manually testing, see if I could pick it up. I did pick it up by accident a minute ago, but it's just very hard. And imagine if you have like thousands of props and you try to just make sense of what you're building. And there's also props that have collision zones that go outside the prop. Let me show you an example. So now this prop is not selectable either, and there's no way to select it because this prop has a huge collision zone, and this one, it just makes everything inside it non-selectable. And imagine if you have this placed perfectly in your level, and then you want to take it away so that you can move something just for a second and then place it back perfectly how it was. So it's just only that costs so much time. I mean, we have little workarounds where you just place a player-made wood, select both of them, and then move them perfectly up. When you're done, you move it perfectly down. But the thing is, like even that, like takes a lot of time when you're in space or when you're in the air, you know, because you have to place support, you have to place the player-made wood on the support, and then you have to select the things along with the player-made wood, move it up, move whatever you're doing, move it down, delete the support. Just so you can move one prop. Imagine doing hundreds of props and just generally doing work around props that have this issue. It's just a nightmare for us, and this is the most time-consuming thing out of every single issue I'm gonna mention in this video. And if we can temporarily hide things in the editor, kind of like Little Big Planet, where you like filter things or like group them all together and hide them. Just imagine if I could select this while hovering it and press a button, and it makes it translucent and it's hidden, and then I have another key bind that makes everything visible again without affecting gameplay. And even if I forget and you press start game, everything is visible. It's just for the editor. Something is hidden. That will save us so much time. Alright, let's move into the next issue. When I finish a level and I take a photo, usually what I see here is not what I get when I take the photo. Like the POV, the FOV will be different, and I think the colors will be different. I can't remember, but definitely the FOV will be different. So if I wanted to perfectly align and do a logo, like this here is not actually aligned, even though it does look aligned. Like if I did this, then it won't be aligned. It will just be here, kind of like how it was now. So it's kind of hard to take a photo and align it properly with the island tool. And what is even harder is that there is no way for you to know if you took the right photo, because it takes up till an hour to update. and like you can't see the update anywhere else. You can only see it by placing a matchmaking device and having that code there, and just placing, deselecting, placing until you get the photo from the server. So even one attempt may take an hour, and imagine if you just didn't know what the actual screenshot is. Like you have to do 15 attempts, and it's just one day to take do proper framing on a photo. And people use that to make artwork. They use that to make paintings for other maps, so they can use those paintings. And it's really impossible. Like, it's the most time-consuming, a devious task whenever you want to do it. So that's why people rely on the renders like this one, because it's just impossible to make something that is framed well. And not only that, in that mode, all the devices so if, say, I want to just capture the best place in my map, there will be so many devices in like our zones everywhere, and so you couldn't even see that area anymore. And like having the devices not showing that mode would be perfect. All right, next issue. Yeah, the fly app also tied to the same key. Cancel flight, I know that was fixed, so I'm not gonna mention it. Actually, I'm gonna mention it just for the sake of being mentioned. But for the longest time, space is flying up, and space is also cancel flight. So if I'm building and I'm moving, say I'm just building, then moving up, building, then I'm trying to do it faster, then I cancel flight instead of going up. And that was like a very time-consuming thing. But since like everything is just muscle memory for us, even though you guys swapped it to shift, it's kind of hard to change. I still have space involved. But yeah, this one is fixed, so I'm just mentioning it. Another thing that is very, very crucial for building is precision. So precision right now, or what we call like fine-tuning or micro-sculpting, anything you want to call it, but precision right now is only in 2 axes. So for example, left, right, back and forth is where we have precision, but where we do lack precision is up and down. Like, there's no way for me to precisely, even with flight speed 0.5, there's no way for me to precisely move up and down as much as I can move in the other axis. Let me just showcase this. So see how little I can move in like other axis and how much precision I have. When I'm going up and down, it's kind of hard to be in that level of precision. And this also happens with rotation. Like, you may think this rotation is precise, but it's not really, because when you do something like this, when I say have a stadium and I want to like place things in a circle, see, like, rotation is not really precise anymore. Like, the increments are so big that I cannot even control it anymore. I just have to go back and forth until it works. And the same, it's even worse when we're talking about scaling, because scaling, go to scaling, has like very large increments. See, like that was just an increment. I was trying to control, I was just trying to tap the button and I'm getting so many big increments that I don't want. I want something in between and I can't get it. And this is just a small prop. If I scale the prop up, it's like way bigger of an issue. So essentially, more precision in up and down axis, rotation, and scaling. If we can have more precision in that, it will just affect our build so much. Especially when we're talking about multi-selections and you're trying to make a coliseum, you're trying to copy the column and the other column place them all around. Like those things are a nightmare when you have like increments that just move away 2 tiles to every side. Alright, next issue. Read this a little bit more close. So the problem is any device that is hovered with a cursor has a highlight shader that has higher priority than the phone selection shader, which makes everything you hold invisible when in front of a device. This includes billboards and doors. So this goes back to what I was saying about the highlight shader, the first issue I ever mentioned. If I have, say, a trigger, I can see the edges. Let me see. I need to remember how to repro this one. Essentially, what I saw with the glass, I think object device is a better way to show it. Like, if I place an objective device and I want to place another one, I don't know where it is in 3D space. And this happens with a ton of devices, not only this one, it's just the... I can't remember which devices do it and which one don't. I think it's this one, it's also the billboards. Yeah. As you can see, I have enabled the border, but when I place it, when I grab it, then I don't see the highlight selection anymore. And all this will be fixed if we didn't get that selection, the blue like highlight. If we just, anything you grab, that's it, there's no effect, I'll be totally down. Yeah, even a setting that disables that in the build menu here, it will just be incredible for us. It will just gives us so much more control and precision. Like, say I want this corner to know exactly where it's going here. Now I have to like fiddle until I get it right. Like here, for example. But yeah, if we didn't have that highlight shader effect, it would just help us build way faster and without frustration. Alright, next issue. So this one, I've written this down a while ago. I'm not sure if it's still a thing, but essentially when you select something, gonna try to go as small as possible. When you select something, it's not in the position you see it, essentially. So just gonna grab this guy. I'm not sure if it still happens. Alright, I'm gonna place the corner exactly where the grid is. Let's see if it happens. I mean, I don't see it happening too much anymore. I think it's pretty precise. Maybe it has to do with the prop or scaling, I'm not sure. But essentially what happens is that you would select the prop and it would just move. And then deselect and it will be there. And even if you place it, there will be an offset. I think it still happens in Nintendo Switch right now. I'm not sure because I haven't tested. It's been a while. It's been a couple of updates, but it was way worse on Nintendo Switch than what it is in PC. So yeah, this happened a couple updates, and then it was fixed, and then it was happening again. Right now it seems to be great. It doesn't seem to happen, but I'm not sure if it's prop specific, so I have to investigate a little bit more on that. But yeah, that was the issue, and it's kind of hard to microscope when you get that. Another issue, again with the highlight, is that every single new primitive has the highlight shader issue as well. So like, because the customized primitive shade prompt appears, I cannot see in 3D space where the other primitive is. If it goes away, then I can see. So it's that whole functionality that breaks the rendering, or breaks the shader like priority for us. So yeah, and primitives are like the major thing we microscope with. Any logo is made with those primitive shapes. So imagine if I was to like fine-tune something and I wanted to place precisely right next to the other one, and every single time I get like lack of precision because I don't see where the thing is. And most of these things happen without the grid, so I have to like do so many little edits to make sure I get it correctly. Also another issue, a little bit of a nitpick, but character movement with props, it's not like axis based, it's a little bit more of a capsule in terms of movement. So say I grab a prop, right? When I move around me, it moves like a capsule. It moves like the player, around the player. It would be perfect if there was more control on moving things per axis. So I can say I have this and I want to move it perfectly to the left. I mean, I can probably align my character perfectly to the grid and then go left, but it won't be perfect, because if I just move it with my camera now, it moves as a capsule, as a circle. It would be perfect if we had like the ability to move things on the side with the camera. So say if I move my camera, instead of going here, it goes where that prop is placed. And then if I move this way, it moves this way and it places there. And that way I have control over the cardinal directions, which is the most crucial directions we need for building, instead of around the player. Which also around the player is useful, but it's more niche. Like you don't always need that movement. You need like cardinal directions first, diagonal second, and then anything in that plane, and then you need the surrounding building. So that is more of a feature request, but if we have that ability to control on axis specifically, yeah, it would give a lot of precision, and it will allow us to build way faster. So we have another issue with multi-selection. It's a little bit impossible for me to showcase, but I'm just gonna tell what happens. And there is a 100% way to repro, it's just super hard. So after multi-selecting more than 85 props, then next time you try to multi-select something, instead of multi-selecting it, it will cancel the selection. And that is extremely time consuming, because for us, when you have like large structures that are like tons of props, more than 100, we move the first bulk, that is say 100 props, and then without canceling or exiting from the phone, we try to move the second bulk, and when we try to pick it up, it just cancels. And then anytime you pick anything up, it just cancels. And the only way to fix it is by picking a single prop up and then deselecting it. That's what fixes it. So it's kind of hard to try to do this, because even if you try to do 100 props, sometimes it doesn't happen. I have no idea what causes it. I think it's the blending of devices and props that causes the issue after the 85 props are selected. And you also need to not switch to pickaxe when you do it. I'm not, I can't remember, but maybe sometimes even if you switch it happens. But the problem is based on large multi-selection, non-canceling of the phone, and blending devices with props on that initial multi-selection. And then anything you try to multi-select, you can multi-select it fine, but as long as you pick it up, then it just cancels instead. And that's an issue that has been in Creative since multi-selection was added. So it's a really, really old issue, and it's kind of hard to repro. So that's why it hasn't been reported or fixed. So that was another one that is pretty big. The other one is mainly for devices. Again, this is a little bit of a thing that broke along the way. It used to work, but it doesn't anymore. When you customize your device, so there's a cool trick that if I use the arrow keys, then it just moves way faster than if I just move the arrow and click the arrow. But as you can see now, I'm trying to move it down. It doesn't work anymore. Or up and down. So I have to move away my mouse, move it back, and then it works again. Now I don't know why this happens, but like sometimes I don't even know how to repro the thing. But as you can see, like it happened on this one. I don't even know why it does it, or why it doesn't work. Like I know sometimes when I have something selected, it won't do it, and then I have to like move away and move back in order for it to do it and start using the arrow keys again, which is something that didn't used to happen. Like it was introduced when the entire UI was changed. When those buttons were added. And it would be nice to just go send something, just do it like how I'm doing it right now without having to worry about what I just mentioned, which happens very often, by the way. I just, for some reason, I can't make it happen right now. I don't know what causes it. But yeah. Anyway, you saw it on the first try that it happened. I think I'm gonna stop for now. I think I reported something like 25 issues. I do have more, but I don't want to make this video way too long, and it's already been an hour, so this is an uncut hour for anyway. I do adore Creative. I will be building hours and hours, kind of like how I had like the last since 2019. But like those things, if they get addressed, I feel will be like we will feel as creators that we've gone the step ahead, because muscle memory for these like tools means that for us in the long term we build faster and faster and faster, and we get frustrated when things start working slower. So instead of me improving as a creator and building faster and faster and faster, all those issues that get slowly introduced over time make me start build slower, even from like the beginning of Creative. And like that creates an inner frustration in my head that eventually makes me burn out, and then I give up. So that's why you see a lot of creators giving up. It's because it's the little polish that creates that satisfaction when you build fast and you get the result of what you want. Because the beauty of UGC is that you get the result of what you want pretty fast. And if the tools create frustrations or they create time-consuming moments, then it just takes away from the beauty of the medium. And that's, I feel, why creators lose interest in their games, because they have to think of these other issues that deviate them or just distract them from what they're trying to build. So yeah, I think that's all I have for now. Hopefully I didn't make it too negative. It's more constructive. Thanks for the hard work on the updates, and hopefully this has been very useful. So yeah, have a great night, evening, morning, whatever. And yeah, thanks again. See ya.